Well, hello everyone. I decided I would take a slightly different approach to the lecture notes this week. Since I had made a dreaded PowerPoint, I decided that I would simply go back through the PowerPoint and explain everything that I explained in the lecture, except hopefully substantially quicker, just summarising it down to the main points and killing all the anecdotes. And just to start with a bit of technology, it's worth mentioning, although I'm referring to it as a PowerPoint, it's not actually a PowerPoint. I'm using the Mac equivalent of the program PowerPoint, which is called Keynote, and allows me to record this vocal line over the top within the program. So I don't know whether PowerPoint allows you to do that or not. So some great Microsoft user out there can put on their blog whether or not you can. Anyway, I hope this is clear enough. It's 5 o'clock in the morning while I'm doing this, and I'm trying to get as close to the inbuilt microphone in my Mac. I cannot be bothered to plug into my Pro Tools 003 and put in a nice mic, so you're just going to have to cope with this quality of sound, but given that I'm not singing, it's not that important, I wouldn't have thought. Alright, so straight into the lecture. We talked about lots of things. Specifically, we talked about online learning, which now is I think UWS Views is called e-learning, so on and so forth. There are lots of different names for it, depending on what's fashionable exactly where you are at any one time. We talked about what enables online learning quite often, as well as just plain websites that we've been making, including your blogs, learning management systems. So learning management systems are systems like Moodle and Blackboard, like the Blackboard system that we have on Views, which allow you to deliver all of the resources for your course, allow you to place a structure, for instance, lecture notes, and then inside lecture notes, different weeks of lecture notes and things like that. They allow for online discussion, polls. We look in a minute at a professional's not the word I mean, commercial learning management system called StudyWiz. You can see that allows for more sort of advanced stuff. Go have a look at their website, like podcasting and things like that, resource sharing, wiki making, which we get onto in a later week in this lecture series. The other side of this that I want to look at is that the learning management system, as I said, and as some of you got quite upset about, it may well be something out of your control, especially if you're working in a government school. What you are allowed to do is fairly restricted. However, even in an independent school, usually the IT department will have made a policy, a decision about what you can and cannot do. For instance, I explained to you why at our school we have the policy we can't use Facebook to communicate with students, and the reasoning why, the very sensible reason why. So while you don't have that much control, or you might not have that much control over that, you do have a lot of control about the resources that you deliver via your LMS. And in fact, that to me is the really exciting bit, and it's the bit that we've already started going down the track of learning how to making your own fantastic resources for your own fantastic repertoire, which will result, I think, in much more exciting, challenging lessons for your students, because you're teaching content that you really know and love. And so that's that title, Teachers as Producers, which is, I wrote an article called The Creative Teacher last year and gave a keynote at a Soundhouse conference called Teachers as Producers. And so that's where that name has come from. The fact that nowadays we can all produce to a very, very high standard lesson resources because the tools are there, and increasingly as we up our skill base, it doesn't take as long to produce those kind of things. I know time is something that we're all very short of. Next slide. And a cup of tea for me. What you're looking at now is a screenshot from the MLC learning management system. That we developed this internally. We've got 3 programmers on staff working on these things. You're looking here at a learning community. There isn't an awful lot on this one, but you can see under the announcements that we can contact the students either via the website and or via email, just as I can do with Views. I can send messages to you all through Views. I can upload resources. There aren't any on here at the moment. I can jump to a specific online unit, and I can also do lots of other things like put videos on those pages and things like that. But essentially this is a communication portal. When I go to the online unit, that's much more relevant for scaffolding actual information. This is an example of an online unit. So this is the one that I've made for Year 10 elective music, and this is the front page. If you look over on the right hand side where it says focus areas, you can see the first three are the three learning experiences as outlined in the syllabus that you're all desperately reading at the moment. So we've got listening, composition and performance, and if you click on those you can see what are called sub-focus areas, and sub-focus areas are actual lessons, stages of lessons for the students. The kind of thing which goes under listening, I would embed YouTube movies, put recordings up of things that we've been listening to, also includes scores and things like that. Under performance, I record class performances because this is an elective class. I expect them all to perform in class regularly, and I put up the class performances there for reflecting. You'll remember in Assessment 1 that you have the challenge of using recordings to get students to reflect, or some technological method to get students to reflect on their progress, and I suggested recordings would be a good way to do it. And then you can see a few other things. My music space I'm not going to go into now, but I did explain that in the lecture. That's just the idea that we do not use the knowledge that students bring into class with them enough. So my music space is the space they have to talk about the music that they're listening to outside music classes. And I'm giving them credit, which in school certificate year is a big deal for them, for writing about that. Okay, so let's have a look at, if I go into the composition tab on the right hand side, here you can see that I've got 3 different composition tasks we've done so far in music. I've got, we had to write a melody over a ground bass. The higher level kids wrote a whole ground bass themselves as well. We've just started an aria task, and we're writing a recitative. We've been listening to the Magic Flute. And so if you go down the page in this recitative task, it reminds them what a recitative was. Then it takes them through the steps. So this is again the idea of providing the scaffolding for them to get to where they want to go. It says you can do the following groups of 2 or 3. So we start off with some group work. And it's all about text setting. So you can see there's an example of how to set some text which already has a rhythm to it. Then there's an example of how to set some text which doesn't have a very clear rhythm to it, so sort of this is just prose. And then you've got the actual tasks themselves. So the first one using the primary triads, and they've already made a rhythm for some words, so now all they have to do is create some pitch. And the level 3, which is a little bit wordy there, but they basically have to create their own recitative, using any chords that they like. Essentially, total free composition as long as it is a recitative.